deep slate diamond, yellow shulker box. Deep slate diamond ore. Deep slate tile stairs. Cobbled deep slate tile stairs. Cobbled deep slate. Warped plank, cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tiles. Cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tiles. Pale oak, warp, pale oak, strip, painting, cobbled, and rod, cobbled deep, chiseled, warped, cobbled, deep slate, warp slab, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate tile stairs. Chiseled deep slate. Deep slate bricks, cobbled deep slate tile stairs. Deep slate bricks, cobbled deep slate, cobbled, warped crafting table. Warped planks, deep slate bookshelf. Inch power, cobbled deep slate, cobbled, warped slab. White cobbled, warped slab, white stained glass pane. White warped slab, white stained glass pane. Warped slab. White cobbled, white stained glass pane. Cobbled, and rod, white stained and rod. White stained and rod, cobbled deep slate and rod, cobbled and rod. Deeps and rod, book, cobbled, white stained glass pane. White stained glass, cobbled, white stained glass pane, cobbled, deep slate, white stained glass. White, book, cobbled, white stained glass pane. Cobbled deep slate. White stained glass. Cobbled deep slate. White stained glass. White stained glass pane. White stained glass, cobbled, deep slate, chiseled, white stained glass pane, deep slate tile, cobbled deep slate, white stained glass. White stained, cobbled, deep slate, cobbled, and rod, white, cobbled, white stained, and rod, cobbled, deep slate, cobbled, and rod, white stained glass pane. White stained glass pane. Cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. White stained glass pane. White stained glass, cobbled, white stained glass, white and rod, white stained glass pane. White book, cobbled deep slate, white stained glass pane. Cobbled deep slate tile, white stained glass pane, white stained glass pane. Cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. Whites, deep slate, cobbled deep slate, whites and rod. Cobbled deep slate, cobbled white stained glass pane. Bookshelf, whites bookshelf, white stained, cobbled deep slate, white stained and rod, white cobbled deep slate, white stained bookshelf, white bookshelf and rod. Deep slate tile stair, cobbled white bookshelf, white stained bookshelf, cobbled deep slate tile, cobbled white stained whites and rod, white stained glass pane, cobbled white stained glass pane. Cobbled deep slate, white stained glass pane. Cobbled warped white stained glass and rod, warped white stained and warped white stained glass, cobbled deep slate, whites cobbled and rod, cobbled deep chiseled, cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Yellow shulker box. Cobbled deep slate. White stained glass, deep slate cobbled deep slate crafting table. Warped planks, deep slate lever, cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate, yellow, cobbled, yellow, chiseled, cobbled, yellow stain, cobbled, yellow, cobbled deep slate, and raw, yellow shulker box, yellow stained white, cobbled deep slate, and rod, cobbled deep slate. Decorated pot, tripwire, spruce trap, magenta, spruce plank, stone cutter. Spruce door. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate, chiseled deep, cobbled, strip, cobbled deep slate. Bookshelf. Inch power, 1, cobbled deep slate, yellows, cobbled deep slate stairs. Cobbled, chiseled, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, yellow stain, cobbled, yellow shulker box. Deep slate tile stairs. Cobbled deep slate, bookshelf, cobbled, whites, chiseled, yellows, cobbled deep slate, shulker, deep slate tiles, spruce, deep slate tiles. Warped, grass, polished deep slate wall. Light, polished deep slate wall. Polished deep slate, cobbled, chiseled, cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate tiles. Cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tiles. Deep slate bricks. Deep slate tile, deep slate, cobbled, deep slate tile, cobbled, chiseled deep slate tiles. Warped planks. Warped, cobbled, yellows, cobbled, pale oak, warped slab. Cobbled deep slate tiles. Cobbled deep, yellows, chiseled, cobbled, yellows, cobbled deep, yellow stained, deep slate, warped, yellow stained glass pane. Deep slate bricks, cobbled deep slate. Warped planks, warped slab. Spruce, stone cutter. Warped slab. Deep slate bricks, cobbled, deep slate, chiseled, warps, cobbled deep slate stairs. Warped slab. Cobbled deep, warped, yellow stained, chiseled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate stairs. Grass block, warped, deep slate, strip, cyan wool, bookshelf, deep slate, and rod, cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate, Deep slate tile stairs, deep slate cobbled, pale oak, cobbled, deep slate, chiseled, cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tiles, cobbled, yellow shulker box. Cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tile, cobbled deep slate. Chiseled cobbled deep slate, cobbled, warped slab. White stained glass pane. Warped slab. white stained glass pane. Cobbled, warped, white stained glass, and rod, white stained glass, warped slab. White stained glass pane. Warped stair, white stained glass. White stain, deep slit, cobbled, white stain, warped, and rod. White stained glass pane. White stained glass pane. White stained glass pane. White stained glass, cobbled deep slate. White stained cobbled, white stained glass, cobbled, white stained, cobbled, white stained, cobbled, chiseled, white stained glass pane. Cobbled deep slate, white stained glass. White stained glass. White stained glass pane. And white stain, cobbled, and rod, white stain, and stained, and rod. White stained glass. Deep slit, cobbled, white stained glass pane. And rod. White stained glass pane, white stained glass pane. White stained glass pane. White stained glass, cobbled deep slit, white stained glass pane, white stained glass pane, white stained glass, cobbled, white stained glass pane. White stained glass. White stained glass, bookshelf, cobbled, white stained glass pane. White stained glass pane. White stained glass pane, white stained glass pane. White stained glass pane, white stained glass, bookshelf, white stained, bookshelf, white stained bookshelf, white stained glass, bookshelf, white stained glass pane. Cobbled deep slate, white stained glass pane, cobbled deep, bookshelf, cobbled deep, white stained glass pane. White stained glass pane, white stained glass, deep slit, cobbled, deep slit, white stained glass. White stained glass, white stained glass. And deep slit, cobbled deep, white stained glass. Deep slate, bookshelf, cobbled, white stained glass pane. Bookshelf, white stained glass, cobbled, white stained glass. Cobbled, white stained glass, white stained, and rod, cobbled, chiseled, cobbled deep slate tile, white, and rod, deep slate tile, cobbled deep slate. Cobbled, deep slate, white stained glass pane. Cobbled deep slate, yellow shulker box. Cobbled deep slate. Yellow shulker box. Cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tiles, cobbled white, cobbled, white stained, deep slate tile stairs, deep slate tile stairs. Cobbled deep slate. White, cobbled deep slate tile stair, and rod, white stained glass pane, white, cobbled deep slate. Pale oak plank, deep slate tile, warps, deep slate tile, cobbled, pale oak, deep slate tile, white, cobbled, white stained glass. Deep slate tile stairs. Black stone slab. Black barrel, black chest. Black stone stair, white block of polished black stone stairs. Black stone stair, shulker box, black stone shulker box. Black stone stairs. Crafting table. Deep slate tile stairs. Bookshelf, cobbled deep white stain and raw deep slate tile deep slate tile stair deep trapdoor, deep slate diamond warp trapdoor, deep slate tile trapdoor, deep slate tile bookshelf bookshelf cobbled deep slate cobbled deep slate bookshelf cobbled deep slate diamond ore. Warp, bookshelf, cobble, deep slate tile stairs, warp trapdoor. Deep slate tile stairs. Warp trapdoor. Deep slate diamond, deep slate tile stair, deep slate, warp trapdoor. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tile stairs. Warp trapdoor. Warp cobbled deep slate cobbled warp trapdoor, cobbled warp trapdoor, cobbled deep slate warp trapdoor, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate diamond ore, warp and rod cobbled deep slate cobbled warp trap cobbled deep slate tile stair bookshelf warp trap deep slate warp trapdoor. Deep slate warp trap cobbled cobbled deep slate bookshelf bookshelf white deep slate cobbled deep slate shulker box warp shulker box cobbled warp trapdoor chiseled deep slate cobbled deep slate warp trap deep slate cobbled deep slate warp cobbled deep slate cobbled deep slate shulker cobbled shulk cobbled warp trapdoor warp trapdoor cobbled warp trap cobbled deep slate tile stair warp trap cobbled warp trap cobbled warp trap cobbled deep slate warp cobbled deep slate cobbled shulker box warp trap shulker box cobbled deep slate tile cobbled deep slate warp trapdoor. White cobbled warp trapdoor, warp cobbled deep slate tiles, warp trapdoor, white cobbled deep slate tiles, deep slate tile, pale deep slate tile, cobbled deep slate cobbled deep slate tile, cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor, cobbled warp trap, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, cobbled warp trapdoor. White stained glass, deep slate, cobbled warp trapdoor. Cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor. Cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep warp trap, cobbled deep warp deep slate, white cobbled deep slate tile stairs, warp trapdoor. Deep slate tile, deep slate, warp trapdoor. Warp trapdoor, warp cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. White cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. White stained glass, cobbled deep slate. White deep slate diamond or warp trapdoor, deep slate warp trapdoor, bookshelf, bookshelf, bookshelf. Book cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Bookshelf. Inch power, cobbled deep slate. Warp deep slate tile, cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tile stairs, bookshelf, warp trapdoor, warp trap, deep slate tiles, warp trapdoor, warp trap, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tile stairs, cobbled warp trapdoor. Whites and rod, deep slate, warp trap, deep slate, warp trap, deep slate, warp trap, cobbled deep slate. Shulker box, cobbled shulker box, warp trapdoor. Deep slate diamond ore, cobbled shulker, shulker box. Warp trap, cobbled deep slate. Warp trap, cobbled deep, cobbled shulk, deep slate tiles, warp trapdoor. Cobbled shulker, cobbled deep, warp trapdoor, shulker, cobbled deep slate. Warp trapdoor. Cobbled deep slate. warp trapdoor, cobbled warp trapdoor, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, deep slate tile stairs. Cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor, white and rod, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, books, cobbled deep slate, strip, deep slate tile, strip, pale oak, strip, pale oak, cobbled, warp, white, deep slate, chiseled, deep slate tile stairs. Snow. Pink, cherry leaves. Bee nest, cherry, grass block. Grass block. Stone, stone. 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 Diorite. Stone. Cobblestone. Stone. Andesite. Stone. Diorite. Stone. Stone. Skulk. Stone. Deep stone. Deep slate. Andesite. Deep stone. Deep slate. Cobblestone. Deep slate. Deep slate redstone ore. Deep slate. Deep slate redstone ore. Deep slate. Deep slate iron ore. Deep slate. Deep slate iron ore. Deep slate. Deep slate tile stairs. Decorated pot, spruce, magenta, spruce, door, spruce, stone cutter. Deep slate tile stairs. Cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate tile stairs. Cobbled deep chiseled cobbled deep slate tile stairs. Cobbled cobbled deep chiseled cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate cobbled deep slate tile stair. Chiseled cobbled deep slate. Deep slate cobbled deep slate tile stairs. Deep slate chiseled deep slate tile cobbled deep slate chiseled cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate cobbled 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 deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Chisel and rod whites cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate cobbled deep slate cobbled deep slate. White stained glass, deep slate cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Chiseled deep slate, cobbled deep slate. White stained glass, cobbled cobbled deep slate. Cobbled deep slate. Deep slate cobbled chiseled cobbled deep slate cobbled deep slate cobbled deep slate. Deep slate cobbled deep slate cobbled deep slate. deep slate tile, cobbled cobbled deep slate, chiseled deep, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate tile stair, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, deep slate tile stairs, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate tile stairs, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep, cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor, cobbled deep, warp trapdoor, cobbled, warp trap, cobbled deep slate, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor, cobbled, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, cobbled, warp trapdoor, cobbled, warp trap, cobbled, warp, cobbled, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor, cobbled, and rod, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor, cobbled deep slate, chiseled deep slate, warp, cobbled, warp trap, cobbled, warp trap, cobbled deep slate tiles, cobbled, warp, white, deep slate, cobbled, deep slate, warp trapdoor, warp, deep slate, warp trapdoor, cobbled deep slate tile stair, cobbled, warp, cobbled, warp, deep slate tile stair, cobbled, deep slate, warp trapdoor, warp trapdoor, warp trapdoor, warp trapdoor, deep slate and rod, cobbled deep slate, warp, cobbled deep slate tile stairs, deep slate tiles, warp trapdoor, warp trap, warp, cobbled deep slate, cobbled, warp trap, deep slate, warp trapdoor, warp trap, cobbled deep slate bricks, deep slate, cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor, cobbled deep slate, cobbled, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, cobbled deep slate, warp trapdoor, cobbled, cobbled deep slate, warp trap and cobbled, warp trapdoor, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp, deep slate, cobbled deep slate, warp, cobbled, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, deep slate, cobbled deep slate, warp, cobbled deep slate, warp, cobbled and rod, warp, yellow stained, warp, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, chiseled deep slate, cobbled deep slate tile, cobbled deep slate, chiseled deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, cobbled deep slate, cobbled, chiseled, cobbled deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate, warp, cobbled deep slate, cobbled, warp, and rod, warp, deep slate, cobbled deep slate tiles, pale oak plank, pale oak planks, pale oak planks, cobbled deep slate, pale oak planks, cobbled deep slate, pale oak planks, cobbled, pale oak planks, white stain, cobbled deep slate, pale oak plank, cobbled bookshelf, pale, cobbled, warp, pale, warp, strip, pale oak, cobbled deep slate, warp trap, cobbled, warp, black stained glass pane, azalea leaf, potted azalea leaves, pale, deep slate tiles, strip, pale oak, pale oak, deep slate, pale oak, strip, pale oak planks, warp, cobbled, warp, chiseled, warp, pale oak plank, azalea, pale oak, deep slate tiles, book, strip, pale oak, warp, strip, warp, pale oak, cobbled deep slate, cobbled, warp trap, cobbled, warp, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak, deep slate tiles, pale oak plank, deep slate tiles, warp, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak, strip, deep slate, pale oak planks, deep slate tiles, strip, warp, strip, deep slate tiles, warp trapdoor, deep slate, warp trap, white bed, deep slate tile, warp trap, deep slate, warp, white, warp trap, deep slate, warp trapdoor, white bed. warp trapdoor, deep slate, warp trap, warp trap, deep slate, white bed. Pale oak plank, warp trap, pale oak, warp trapdoor. Strip pale oak, warp trapdoor. Pale oak planks. Pale oak strip, warp, pale oak, warp trapdoor, strip, pale oak, white bed. Deep slate tiles. Strip, white bed, warp, strip, pale oak, warp trapdoor. Pale, strip, warp trapdoor, warp trapdoor. Warp, strip, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak planks. Pale oak planks. Strip, pale oak planks. Strip, pale oak planks. Pale oak azalea, pale oak planks. Pale oak strip, pale oak planks. Deep slate tiles. Warp trapdoor, pale, strip, pale oak, deep slate tiles. Pale, strip, pale oak planks. Strip, pale oak plank, deep slate, pale oak planks. Pale oak, strip, pale oak, strip, pale oak log. Pale oak, paint, pale oak, strip, pale oak, polish, pale oak, strip, pale oak log. Pale oak, strip, pale oak planks, strip, pale oak planks, strip, pale oak, deep slate tiles. Strip, pale oak, deep slate, pale oak planks. Pale, deep slate tiles. Deep slate, strip, pale, deep slate tile, pale, cauldron, warped, pale oak planks. Strip, pale oak log. Pale oak plank, cauldron. Pale oak strip, pale oak planks. Lever. State, pale oak, lever, pale, warped, strip, pale oak log. Lever. Strip, lever. Pale, strip, pale oak planks. Pale oak planks. Lever. Pale, and deep slate tiles. Deep slate tile, pale oak, strip, warp door. Pale, trip wire, pale oak planks. Strip, pale oak planks. Cauldron. Shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Pale oak plank, azalea leaf, deep slate tiles. Cobbled, warped, bookshelf, deep slate tile, warped, crafting table. Smoker. White stained glass, cobbled, warped, trapped, deep slate, strip, pale oak log. Called, deep slate, strip, pale oak, deep slate tiles. Shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Iron trapdoor. Deep slate tiles, iron, deep slate tile, iron trapdoor. Deep slate tiles, deep slate, shulker box. deep slate tiles. Lever, 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 lever. State, deep slate tiles. Iron trapdoor, deep slate, lever, lever. Pale oak, lever, lever, lever. State, iron trapdoor, deep slate, iron trap, deep slate, lever. Deep slate tile, shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Deep slate tiles. Iron trapdoor. Lever, lever, lever. State. Deep slate, deep slate tiles. Pale oak planks. Deep slate tiles. Pale oak, iron trap, pale oak planks. Pale oak, iron lever. Pale, deep slate, iron trapdoor. Deep slate tile, iron trap, deep slate tile, shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Warp trapdoor, deep slate tile, warp trap, deep slate, pale oak planks, strip, deep slate tile, pale oak, strip, deep slate tile, strip, pale oak planks, strip, pale oak planks, strip, pale oak planks, deep slate tiles, yellow shulker box, deep slate, pale oak plank, deep slate tiles, pale oak planks, pale oak, white stained glass pane. Strip, white stained glass pane. Strip, pale oak log. Pale oak planks. White stained glass pane, pale oak planks. Lever. State, pale oak planks. Lever, pale oak and rod, pale oak plank, strip, pale lever, pale oak and rod, pale oak, strip, pale oak, yellow shulker box. Deep slate, strip, pale oak, deep slate tiles. White stained glass, white stained glass. Pale oak planks, strip, pale oak plank, strip, yellow shulker box. Deep slate tile, pale oak planks. Pale oak planks. Deep slate tiles, white stained glass pane, pale oak, white stained glass pane. Pale, deep slate, strip, white stained glass pane. Pale oak plank, yellow, deep slate, white stained glass pane. Deep slate, pale oak, pale oak, white stained, pale, strip, pale oak, deep slate tile, white stained glass pane. Pale oak plank, strip, white stain, strip, deep slate, pale oak, yellow shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Pale oak, strip, pale oak log, strip, pale oak log. Pale oak planks. Deep slate cauldron, pale oak, deep slate tiles. White stained glass, deep slate tiles. Strip, pale oak log. Pale oak plank, deep slate tile, cauldron. Pale oak plank, deep slate tiles. Deep slate tiles, white stained glass pane. Deep slate tile, pale oak planks. Deep slate tiles. Iron trapdoor. Strip, pale oak, pale oak, iron trap, deep slate tile, deep slate tiles. Strip, deep slate tiles. Iron trapdoor. Deep slate tiles, deep slate tiles. Pale oak, strip, pale oak planks. Deep slate tiles. pale oak plank, deep slate, deep slate, pale oak, deep slate tiles. Iron trapdoor, deep slate tiles, iron trapdoor, deep slate tile, deep slate tiles. Iron trapdoor, iron trapdoor, deep slate, strip, deep slate tile, warp trap, deep slate tiles. Warp, deep slate tile, warp trapdoor, deep, warp trapdoor. Blackstone slab. Block of M, blackstone. Shulker box, crafting table. Deep slate tiles. Deep slate, deep slate, pale, pale oak, warp planks. Pale oak plank, strip, strip, warp planks. Strip, pale oak, pale oak plank, warp trapdoor. Warp stairs, warp planks. Deep slate tiles. Shulker box. Deep slate tile, pale oak, bamboo, deep slate, strip, pale oak planks, trip wire, pale oak plank, deep slate, shulker box. Deep slate tile, pale oak, pale oak planks. Chiseled, pale, strip, pale, chiseled bookshelf. Pale oak plank, chiseled, deep slate, pale oak planks. Deep slate, pale oak planks. Strip, strip, pale oak log. Chiseled, strip, chiseled pale oak, shulker box. Deep slate tile, shulker box. Pale oak planks, chiseled bookshelf. Barrel. Warp planks, barrel, chiseled barrel, pale oak planks. Strip, pale oak warp, pale oak, strip, pale oak, warp, pale oak planks, barrel. Barrel. Shulker box. Deep slate tiles, warp, pale oak, warp, barrel. Pale oak planks, warp, deep slate tiles. Shulker box. Deep slate, strip, pale oak log, barrel. Strip, pale oak, barrel, pale oak, barrel. Strip, pale oak log, barrel. Pale oak planks. Shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Barrel. Warp, barrel, pale, warp, strip, pale oak planks. White, pale oak planks. Pale, tripwire, strip, pale, deep slate, pale oak, warp, deep slate tile, strip, deep slate tiles. Warp trapdoor, pale, warps, deep slate tiles. Pale oak plank, warp, strip, pale oak, warp, deep slate tiles. Warp trapdoor. deep slate tile, warp trap, deep slate tiles. Warp stairs. Deep slate tile, warp stairs. Deep slate tiles, warp, deep slate, deep slate, deep slate, warps, deep slate, deep slate, deep slate, warp trap door. Warp trap, deep slate, warp trap, deep slate tile, pale, barrel, warp planks. Pale, barrel. Warp, deep slate tiles. Warp stairs. Pale oak planks. Strip pale oak, strip pale oak planks. Lever. State, off. Strip pale oak, lever, strip pale oak planks. Painting. Orb, pale, painting, pale oak, pale oak, strip, pale oak planks. Strip pale oak log. Pale oak, strip, pale oak, lever, strip, warp, pale oak planks. Painting. Backyard. Strip, painting, strip, pale oak plank, strip, warp, strip, lever. Pale, lever, warp, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak planks. Pale oak, warp, painting, strip, painting. Pale, strip, painting. Pale, warp trapdoor. Deep, pale oak, warp trapdoor. Pale oak, pale oak plank, strip, warp, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak, strip, and rod, pale oak plank, white, pale oak planks. Pale oak planks. Painting. Strip, chiseled, pale oak, strip, pale oak planks. Pale oak plank, painting, painting. Strip, pale oak planks. Strip, pale oak log, strip, pale oak log. Painting. Pale oak, strip, pale oak, strip, barrel, strip, pale oak log. Pale, barrel. Trip, white stained, warp door, pale oak, strip, pale oak log, pale oak, barrel, warp planks. Pale oak plank, called, polished, strip, deep slate, pale oak, strip, deep slate tiles. Warp door. Shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Pale oak plank, deep slate, warp, strip, barrel, warp planks. Pale oak plank, chiseled, barrel, warp planks. Bamboo button. Pale oak, head date, warp stairs, warp planks. Warp, head database head, pale, toilet, pale, barrel, chiseled barrel. Chiseled, warp planks, bamboo, strip, pale oak, warp, barrel. Head database head. Chiseled, barrel, whites, chiseled, head data, barrel. Pale oak plank, chiseled pale, strip, pale oak log. Pale, strip, warps, barrel, pale, white stained glass. Pale oak plank, white cauldron. Polished, pale, deep slate, tiles. Strip, deep slate, pale oak, strip, pale oak, pink bed. Deep slate tile, shulker box. deep slate tiles, pink, pale oak, pink bed, strip, chiseled, pink, deep slate, shulker box, deep slate tiles, and pink, chiseled, deep, shulker box, deep, pink bed, chiseled bookshelf, pale, strip, pale, chiseled, pale oak planks, pink bed, shulker box, deep slate tiles, pale oak, deep slate tile, pale, warped, deep slate, warped, pale, chiseled, white bed, strip, chiseled bookshelf, strip, pale oak, warped, chiseled, and rod, pale, deep slate, pale oak, strip, pale, warped door, deep slate tile, pale, yellow bed, pale, chiseled bookshelf, and rod, yellow, chiseled, deep slate, pale oak, pale, deep slate tiles, pale oak, deep slate tiles, pale oak, chiseled, deep slate, strip, pale oak, chiseled bookshelf, pale, chiseled bookshelf, pale, strip, deep slate, warped door, pale oak, deep slate tiles, pale oak plank, deep slate, pale oak, deep slate, strip, pale oak, deep slate, pale, cobbled deep, pale, strip, pale oak plank, chiseled, pale oak, strip, pale oak log, strip, pale oak log, strip, pale oak, cobbled deep slate, pale oak planks, pale oak, cobbled deep, pale oak plank, cobbled deep, strip, pale oak, deep slate, strip, pale oak, cobbled, strip, pale oak log, pale oak plank, deep slate tile, strip, pale oak, pale, black stained glass pane, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak, shulk, strip, pale oak log, painting, strip, strip, pale oak, pale oak, painting, pale, painting, painting, pale, painting, pale oak, pale oak, painting, pale oak, strip, shulk, strip, deep slate, pale oak planks, strip, pale oak planks, pale oak planks, pale oak, strip, pale oak log, pale, strip, pale oak log, paint, strip, painting, pig, strip, painting, strip, painting, strip, painting, strip, painting, strip, chiseled, pale oak, strip, and rod, pale, strip, pale oak, painting, strip, strip, painting, strip, painting, strip, strip, painting, strip, pale, painting, orb, black, pale oak planks, pale oak planks, strip, pale oak log, pale, strip, pale oak, strip, pale oak, deep slate tile, strip, deep slate tile, and rod, strip, pale oak, deep slate tiles, pale oak, deep slate tiles, pale oak, strip, pale, pale, cobbled deep, pale oak, strip, deep slate, pink, strip, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak, planks, strip, pale oak plank, chisel, cobbled deep slate, strip, cobbled deep slate, pale oak plank, deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate, pale, deep slate tiles, cobbled deep slate tiles, pale oak, deep slate, strip, chiseled, strip, pale oak log, cobbled deep slate, pale oak plank, cobbled deep, pale, strip, pale oak log, pale oak, strip, pale oak log, pale oak, cobbled, deep slate, strip, pink, deep slate tile, strip, deep slate, cobbled, pale, deep slate, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak, and black stained glass pane, pale oak, warped door, pale, strip, deep slate, strip, pale oak planks, strip, deep slate, pale oak planks, deep slate, strip, pale oak, deep slate tiles, pale oak, pale, black stained, strip, warped, pale oak, deep slate tile, pale oak plank, warped, pale oak planks, deep slate, pale oak, strip, strip, deep slate, pale oak, pale oak, pale, strip, deep slate tile, strip, pale oak log, pale, deep slate, and rod, pale, deep slate tile, pale, strip, pale oak, pale oak, strip, pale oak planks, warped, pale oak, deep slate, strip, pale oak planks, pale oak, painting, pale, painting, pale, painting, pale, painting, painting, pale oak, painting, pale oak, painting, painting, pale, painting, deep slit and raw, pale oak, strip, deep slit, pale oak, paint, deep slit, pale oak, chiseled, pale, warped, strip, pale oak plank, strip, pale oak planks, pale oak, painting, pale, paint, warped, pale oak strip, deep slate, strip, deep slate, yellow, pale oak planks, strip, pale oak log, deep slate, cauldron, pale oak, warp, pale oak planks, painting, painting, pale oak, painting, pale oak, pale oak, painting, pale, painting, pale oak, painting, warped, strip, deep slate tiles, pale oak, pale oak planks, potted, pale oak plank, pale, strip, pale oak, warped, deep slate tile, pale oak, warped, deep slate, strip, black stained glass paint, pale, deep slate tiles, pale oak plank, deep slate tile, cauldron, strip, pale oak, deep slate tiles, pale oak, strip, deep slate, blacks, warped door, cobbled warped, whites, warped, and cobbled, and raw, cobbled, deep slate, warped, cobbled, deep slate, warped stair, cobbled, deep slate tile, cobbled, deep slate, crafting table, cobbled, deep slate, cobbled, deep slate, cobbled, warps, cobbled, deep slate, warp, cobbled, deep slate, bookshelf, deep slate diamond ore, warp stairs, deep slate, warp stairs, deep slate diamond, cobbled, deep slate tiles, barrel, cobbled, deep slate, bookshelf, deep slate diamond ore, warps, cobbled, deep slate tiles, cobbled, warp trap, cobbled, deep slate, yellow, cobbled, deep slate, cobbled, deep, warp stairs, deep slate tiles, yellow, cobbled, yellow stained glass, cobbled, cobbled, pale, cobbled, whites, cobbled, deep slate, pale oak, black stained glass pane, deep slate tiles, pale oak plank, deep slate tiles, pale, strip, pale oak log, deep slate tiles, pale oak plank, deep slate, barrel, white stained, pale, cauldron, pale oak planks, deep slate, cobbled, warp trapped, and raw, white stained, cobbled, deep slate tile, deep slate, grass block, dirt, grass block, warp trap, grass block, deep slate, grass block, warp trap door, grass block, dirt, deep slate, deep slate tiles, grass block, warp door, warp door, pale oak, spruce, warp trap door, cyan wool, deep slate tiles, trip wire hook, spruce trapdoor, magenta, spruce crafting, spruce anvil, chest, deep slate tiles, chiseled book, strip, barrel, deep slate, cobbled, warp trap, cobbled, deep slate tiles, warp door, pale oak, strip, pale oak plank, waxed, pale oak, strip, pale oak, pale strip, pale oak log, white bed, pale oak planks, white bed, pale oak, strip, deep slit, blacks, pale oak, waxed, strip, pale oak, warp, pale oak, deep slit, pale, deep slit, strip, pale, waxed, pale oak, waxed, strip, chiseled book, pale oak, deep slit, pale oak, deep slate tiles. Strip pale oak log, strip pale oak plank, strip deep slate, pale oak plank, strip pale oak, strip pale oak, deep slate tiles. Deep slate, pale oak, strip, pale oak, deep slate tile, yellow, pale oak, strip, pale, deep slate tiles. Shulker box. Deep slate tiles. Pale oak plank, strip, pale oak plank, deep slate tiles, yellow bed, deep slate tile, pale, black stained glass pane, strip, deep slate tiles. Black stone slab, smooth calc, polished, block of amethyst. White, brown, black stone slab. Shulker box, block of calc, block of white carp, polished, shulker box. Black stone stair, shulker box, dispense barrel. Blackstone. Shulker, black stone stair, black stone, polished basalt. Block of chest. Black stone stair, polished basalt. Pale oak trapped, white carpet. Block of amethyst, chest, pale, polished basalt. Spruce sign. Smooth stone, dark oak, spruce, red smooth, dark oak, strip, loom. Banker. Health, 20. Barrel. Grass block. Strip, spruce, deep slate, strips, chest. Deep slate. Chest, deep slate, chest, spruce, red nether, dark oak, strip, loom. Banker. Health, 20. Dark oak door. Dirt path. Stripped, spruce, chest, spruce sign. Spruce sign. Polished black stone stairs. Beacon, blacks, cave vine, polished, shulk, crafting, black stone, cave vine, black, white car, barrel, chest. Spruce log. Spruce magenta, spruce plank, anvil, grinds, stone cutter. Smoker. Spruce cobbles, chest. Blast fern, chest. Glass pane. Chest. Cobblestone stair, furnace. Blast furnace. Smoker. Blast furnace. Furnace. Blast smoker. Grindstone, ender smoker. Furnace. Blast furnace, glass pane, spruce, cobblestone, spruce, heavy armor stand. Armor,